I'm pleased to introduce the founder and president of Chainworks, Rohit Tandon. He began working with blockchain in 2013 after serving as Oracle's global product strategist for 7 years. Please welcome Rohit.
Thank you, Cindy. Voice check, is this okay? Alrighty, cool. Good afternoon, everyone. Hang on a sec, where's my clicker, Cindy? Need my clicker? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Not a good day to be looking at your crypto portfolios today, so let's focus on more important things like enterprise blockchain. So the session title is Enterprise Blockchain, the Road Ahead. Before we begin, hang on. Okay, sorry, technical issues. Isn't this a great conference? I think a good collection of speakers. So I want to actually thank Pirian and Dr. Agarwal and their team for actually putting this show together. Thank you very much. A little bit of a safe harbor statement for me personally. I am not a registered investment advisor, okay? And I am advisor to multiple ICOs, and but that should not be taken as an endorsement. And I do own, in one or more ICOs, I do own tokens. So I had to get that safe harbor out of the way, just with the way things are nowadays. This is a lot about myself instead of a little about myself, but I'm gonna try and pace through it. So spent over 12 years with Oracle in the role of product strategy in the enterprise software space, and also heading up their North American IT and business intelligence and technology consulting. Roundabout in 13, in the green shoot days of cloud, big data, and open source invading big data, as in Hadoop, I founded elevondata.com, which is a company focused on big data and robotic process automation solutions on the cloud. This is one thing that people want to know. My Bitcoin epiphany moment was actually 2012 when I read the white paper. I had some grounding in Austrian School of Economics from 1990s. It immediately resonated with me as to what was going on here. In 2013, I built a Bitcoin exchange with my team, and it was meant to be launched in India, but we didn't launch it given the regulatory conditions at that point. However, I was already introduced to the protocol, and having been in the enterprise software space, it was clear that this technology will see the light of day in enterprise as well. So with that, I waited for things to kind of tick up, and it was evident with the ICO fever starting May of last year, things are starting to go mainstream. So I founded Chainworks.com, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Here's a couple of projects that I'm participant to. The first one is Lucid Exchange, which is derivatives on the blockchain. Second is distributed artificial intelligence on blockchain, which is Thought.live, and LOIAC, which is enterprise relationship management on blockchain. I've been a Bitcoin lifetime member of Bitcoin Foundation since 2013. About Chainworks, largely we're focused on three things. We have a deep focus on product. So we're basically working on products for the enterprise in the enterprise software space. Second thing we're doing is actually working with ICOs and a couple of large multi-billion-dollar organizations crafting their use cases. And thirdly, we're basically also big on corporate training, because right now, if you approach the enterprise, it's not as if everybody understands blockchain. So you can't simply ask the question, what are your use cases? So there's some little bit of teaching that needs to happen there. So we do that in the context of ideation. We're big on community contributions. We made over 400 contributions so far in various prominent enterprise blockchain protocols and a little bit more. If you've ever taken any video tutorials for Hyperledger Composer, chances are that was done by one of the Chainworks team members. All right, so we made it this far. So should we start with what is a blockchain, or should we elevate our game? I think I'm personally getting a little bit lethargic about going to conferences and meetups and just sticking to the theme of what is blockchain. So let's elevate our conversation, and let's try and simplify this for the enterprise, as well as make it more real for them. So if you think about Internet 1.0, it was all about content and communication. So it was liberating from a point of view of P2P, exchange of information between two individuals, as in the email and so on and so forth. So what's going on with Internet 2.0? And yes, I call it Internet 2.0 because this is kind of the second overall of the protocol layer. I do understand we're at the Web 3.0 layer from the application stack point of view. So what's going on with Internet 2.0 is actually the digital value transfer in a P2P mode, right? That equates to basically the exchange of information in the P2P mode in the first birth of Internet. Of course, there's digital value categories. They can be tangible, intangible, or obligatory, right? And some of the examples are there. And then, I just put up something from the realm of Internet 1.0. If you're old enough, you remember the dial-ups actually used to make a bunch of noises as you would get onto the Internet. So I actually discovered that each and every one of those noises is very well explained on Wikipedia. So it's like saying, in around blockchain ecosystem, I think we're, especially from enterprise perspective and business perspective, we're confusing the heck out of the people by throwing a lot of jargon around cryptography and mathematical puzzle solving. They have their place, and we need to understand them. But I think we need to simplify the conversation. So it's kind of akin to the all of the noise, from the dial-up modems. So the previous slide is about what really is going on here. And what really is going on here is digital value transfer, right, from an enterprise perspective. However, if you look at the space program, nobody set out a goal that we're actually gonna build a water purification system, right? The personal computer was not a goal either. So, but what happened is the tale of unintended consequences from the space programs, and there's 20 inventions that came out of the space program, but that wasn't the stated goal. Similarly, when Satoshi wrote the Bitcoin white paper, it actually says, and it's reproduced there verbatim, it's a P2P electronic cash system. It wasn't really talking about assets, it wasn't talking about digital value, it wasn't talking about the shared data layer that it spawns, and it doesn't talk about the new trust model, right? But those are important use cases. So those are, that's the tale of unintended consequences, and they're highly applicable to the enterprise. So digital value, new trust model, as well as basically shared data layer. So how is this going to evolve? And this talk is more in the space of enterprise architecture. So for those of you who are here for something else like crypto or IC or something like that, or B2C projects, it doesn't talk about that. I'm thinking about not the next mile, but what the road ahead is from an enterprise architecture point of view. So today, if you walk into a store and you buy something at a grocery store, let's say you bought, a banana, and it's a Chiquita banana, right? You buy that, the transaction is actually wrapped around what are known as the master entities and the reference entities, right? Reference data entities. So the master entities are, banana is a product that belongs to a supplier. You are buying it at a store which has a location. So these are all master data entities that are very common in enterprise architecture. The issue, and of course, customer is also a master data entity, and product is as well. And of course, through Equifaxes of the world and other hacks, we know that the centralized models are prone to being leaky and unsecure. The future, of course, is decentralized, as is being showcased by blockchain. And we're going to basically wrap around these master and reference data entities. And my projection is actually these will actually come outside of the enterprise over a long period of time. But until they don't, what we will end up having is, if you look at the right side, at Chainworks, we call it Business Value Network, or BVN. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a rise of BVNs within the enterprise. So on the left, you could have a bespoke BVN around supplier. I called it Enterprise 1, BVN 1. You could have a bespoke BVN around, let's say, inventory tracking, right? And so on and so forth, and on to Enterprise N. Now, so this is within the enterprise. If you look at the scale of larger companies, let's take a large bank. A bank can have a mortgage division, they can have a cards division, they can have a banking division, student loan division, so on and so forth. In the context of large banks, all of these actually can be multi-billion-dollar entities by themselves. So what's happening here is we're going to have purpose-specific BVNs, and we're going to have LOB-oriented BVNs. And if you're, once again, if you remember the rise of ERPs starting in the mid-90s, what you're looking at is basically the rise of, the blockchain networks in a similar vein, very functionally oriented. But it doesn't stop there. So this is, I would say, maybe the end state. You will have BVNs within the enterprise, you will have BVNs outside the enterprise, and they all need to talk with each other, okay? And the way they will connect with each other is through interoperability of chains. And today, if you look at it, we're just starting out, and we have many flavors of enterprise blockchains, Hyperledger, Cardano, Corda, and Quorum, and so on and so forth. And all of those LOB blockchains and purpose-specific blockchains are actually going to end up on various types of protocols. And these protocols actually need to communicate with each other within the enterprise, as well as with the extraprise or cross-entity. So in the end state, what I believe is that even though today enterprise may shy away from the concept of tokens, in the end state, basically they will have to use the token. The reason for that is, if you can imagine a bridge over a river and you need to cross it, and it's a toll bridge, what if there were no tokens and you had to pay money, right? And everybody's bringing their own money, right? Let's say one side is one country, another side is another country, and everybody brings their own fiat to that bridge. There's going to be a big problem at the toll booth to collect that money and give the change and so on and so forth. But the token actually simplifies that process. So the cross-chain bridging will occur through tokens. And actually this particular project is working exactly on that. Another thing is, we're basically looking at a huge white space when it comes to middleware, enterprise application integration. When ERP started out, they were actually modules before they became ERP, like SAP or Oracle or anything like PeopleSoft, and they had to be integrated. So if you have a process that actually spans various areas, such as order to cash, OTC. OTC spans a customer placing an order, buying a product, and then from a CRM system, eventually CRM system pings the warehouse system about the availability, and then something goes to the shipment, and if the transaction is settled, then customer needs to pay something, and you need the finance module. So basically, there's a huge integration white space that's out there, and that's actually one of our focuses at Chainworks as well. And another loud thought is that for now, I think we see identity as something belonging within the enterprise, but eventually it's more likely to come outside. And some of the B2C projects in this arena, such as Civic, might end up becoming enterprise identity. So adoption challenges, I'm going to keep it brief. I'm running out of time. But what are the choices? Either the enterprise can actually adopt public blockchain, which really wasn't built for the enterprise. It's not scalable. We all know the various issues around that. Who does the upgrades, governance issues, and we've seen the Tezos public fight. If we adopt the private protocol, I'll basically say it's 1990s type of functionality. today. So there's a long way to go. And there's many adoption challenges, but one in particular is that we've all seen the hacks around smart contracts. And today the QA and testing industry is not really looking into the code. You give them test cases and they test stuff. But with smart contracts, a whole new type of industry is going to be spawned where you need to be actually analyzing and going through the code for smart contracts. So once again, this is a recap. The main use cases are shared data layer, new trust model, value transfer. One thing, how will the adoption curve look like? I do see settlements of all sort of transactions ending up on the ledger. That's where the word ledger is born. That's where it's going to start. I see master data coming out, reference data coming out of the enterprise. And so it's kind of like a repeat of 1990 cycle. We should also look at EDI, because what is EDI? It's basically shared data across 2 or more entities, which is a perfect replacement. And I know we all like to believe in blockchain is good and Bitcoin is bad, but when all is said and done, I think Bitcoin is more likely to become the global central bank and the global settlements layer. Overall, I think we're still pre-HTML days. I'm on the mark, so I'm going to rush. And talk to our experts. We have many showcases built out. We participated in the hackathon, the one about U-Port integration to CityKey of Chicago as a digital identity actually integrated with physical services. And we built out many other use cases on multi-chain, Ethereum, and Hyperledger. And thank you for your time. And 15 minutes is not enough for enterprise architecture. Thank you.